Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Open Source Office. This is Tex. We're going to be meeting with Andamio again today. If you remember, probably about 6 months ago or so, we did a little spotlight recording on the project. And in this case here, we're going to go ahead and go through a demo and a little FAQ, see if this might apply to your project. Today, I'm joined by James once again, and we also have Sebastian with us. Guys, would you like to say hello and maybe introduce yourselves?
Hey everybody, James here, co-founder of Andamio. I've been leading a lot of the initial product design, and we've been taking these ideas, implementing some on-chain systems, implementing some UX to play with those systems, and that's a big thing that I'll be sharing today. Pass it over to Sebastian.
Yeah, I'm Sebastian. I'm one of the co-founders of Andamio, and also I have a seat in the open source committee. So that makes that led me to connect different necessities we have in this moment in terms of how we can facilitate the open source processing in different programs and different scenarios we have in this moment in Cardano. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, guys, for the introduction. And what I will do, at least for now, is I'm going to pass this off to you and give you the free space to show us what we're looking at.
All right, let's go. So I'm going to be sharing my screen, but I'm going to swap back and forth between two different views. And what I thought I would do is keep one view in dark mode and one view in light mode. So you're going to see the contribution side in light mode, and you're going to see the contribution manager or project manager role in dark mode. Now, what we're going to demonstrate is how Andamio enables organizations to define tasks and track contributions, and how it creates a trail of evidence that anybody can audit to make sure that the goals of this project are being met. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Intersect OSC use case as our demo case. Okay, so what we're looking at right here is the view of my contributor dashboard. And there's a few things going on here. In an effort to keep this demo short, what I did is I already completed a course. So here I am. I have an access token. The name of my access token is Intersect Demo Contributor. And when I'm logged into this system, you can already see that I have a completed course, and I've earned a credential over here to potentially be an Intersect maintainer in the retainer project. Okay, so I want to show you how I earned this prerequisite very briefly, and then we're going to jump into the paid contribution side of things. Let's go take a look at this course for just a moment. You don't have to use courses on Andamio. It's not a learning management system on its own, but you can use a course like this one to make sure that people have met certain prerequisites to participate. This way you can, like a commons, right? One of my favorite things about the definition of a commons is it is gated, right? There are walls around a common, but there's very clear rules for how anybody can enter that commons. And that's our goal here. We want to have standards, but we don't want to lock anybody out. And so what we're able to do is have people complete an assignment before they start getting paid. And this is just an example. Suppose we had a couple of learning targets. Before somebody can become a maintainer, you might want them to understand the roles of the program, the goals of the program. And you might want them to read some contribution guidelines so they understand how to be a contributor. Then you could give them an assignment called, in this case, Become a Maintainer, where what they have to do is answer 3 questions. Hey, tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us why you want to participate, and share with us your GitHub handle so we can add you to an organization. You can change these questions to whatever you want. And you can see down here that as this contributor, I answered these questions. And, I kept it very short. I'm not trying to overdo this. I might expect a little bit more from somebody who's signing up to be a maintainer. But this is how the process works. And so before I can even enroll in a project, I've done some work to indicate, what I've done before and why I want to be part of this. I've shared a little bit of practical info. And now this assignment is approved so that I can join the project. If I browse all projects on Andamio, it's a bit overwhelming. And we're looking at pre-prod right now. So we've been doing all sorts of fun stuff, just experimenting with this. But let me filter it by projects I am qualified for. As a contributor, because I've done that prerequisite work, you can see over here, I am qualified to join the Intersect Maintainer Retainer project. I'll click in here. I'll see that I've met the prerequisite. Yes, I've earned that credential. I did it by completing this course, Module 101. And now I'm able to join this project. Let's go ahead and do that. There is a fee for joining a project, but this is a refundable deposit, okay? So you're gonna basically mint a temporary token here that represents your ability to contribute. There are transaction fees because this is a blockchain. Total cost of this transaction is looks like 8.5 ADA or so, but 1.28 of that is a refundable deposit. I'm gonna go ahead and sign this transaction so that I am enrolled as a contributor in this project. Great. And while that transaction settles on chain, there's another thing we should notice here, and it's that no tasks are available yet. That's because on the project manager side, I haven't built any tasks. I want to demonstrate that today. Now, before I do, you're hearing me use the word tasks, and I recognize that Intersect wants to use maybe the terminology of milestones and deliverables and proof of completion. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to show you the language we're using in this application today. But the big idea here is that if this pilot project is successful, Intersect can at any time decide to build their own application for interacting all of the data that goes on chain. All right, so I'm going to show you our view of things, but in the long run, at any point, we can build new applications, and the Andamio team would be excited in 2026 to explore that with Intersect. How can we build your own custom platform for this? Okay, so there's a little bit of language. We can check for alignment on that. But first, let me go over to the project manager side. I'm going to share a different window. I'm going to be in dark mode because now I'm looking at my manager view, and I'm going to look for the project about Intersect. Okay, so here's that project we were just looking at from the contributor view. There's also this course right here. Let's go over here for just a moment. As a manager of this course, I'm not sure why that's not loading. There it is. I can view the assignment commitments, and I can see here's the one where the contributor I was just showing you made their commitment, and we can always go back and review the evidence here, right? So this is how you have that kind of trail of evidence of why somebody was allowed into the project. Oh, because they shared this evidence, okay? So that's the course side. But over here, I want to look at a project now. Here's an empty project. There are not yet any funds in the treasury. There is a prerequisite assigned, right? Here is, I have to complete this prerequisite, which is the course we were just looking at, and only the first module. But you can have people do several assignments if you want them to. It depends what kind of standards you want to set to allow somebody into the project. There's an empty list of acceptance criteria, and I'll show you how this can be used to outline deliverables in just a moment. There's a funding summary table that will start to populate as we add some tasks. And here's my list of enrolled contributors. There's that Intersect demo contributor that we're going to go back and forth with. Let's start by creating some tasks. This is where you could define milestones, for example, right? The first thing we're going to do is draft a new task. And Tex, as I understand it, what we want to do is be thinking on like a quarterly basis. Is that right? I'll assume this for now, right? We can scope this to anything, but I'm going to say that where intersect needs milestones, this is where we would define it. Okay, so let's just say, for example, this is Q4 2025 maintainer contributions. Okay. And there's some reward that you're going to hand out on a quarterly or monthly basis. That amount will be up to you. Let's just say it's 150 ADA for now, right? It's up to you. It's this simple to add a number. I can do a few things here. I can create different tasks for each contributor, right? Number one, or I can create a single task that, say, 15 different people could commit to, and this will be reusable and I don't have to repeat my work. Acceptance criteria, this is where we talk about the deliverables. How will you know that the maintainer successfully delivered on their responsibilities? Well, I would assume we're going to want some number of, right, X get pull requests, right? What else? What else are we looking for from maintainers on a quarterly basis?
X number of documentation reviews.
Right. Okay, so these become acceptance criteria. Here they are. And we could keep adding to the list, and I'll show you another thing about this in just a moment. And then you have a rich text editor right here, right? About being a maintainer. You can use markdown headings, right, to put headings in here. You can embed video and images and code in here. It's pretty full featured. Oh, that's right. We could have links here, share, etc., whatever, right? I'm going to save this as a draft. Great. Now, I'm going to show you one thing about how these acceptance criteria work, because clearly we don't want to be reinventing those over and over again. Because I've already drafted some here, the next time I go to draft a task, those are available to me from a drop-down menu right here. And I can add the same ones, okay? I could change them after the fact if I want to change, right? If I want to change this number, oh, that feature is turned off. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute, right? Oh, here's just another task for demo. We might delete this later. Let's say this one is a lot of funds, but can only be done once. Here are some details. Okay, great. If I go back to the home page of this project here, I will now see that my acceptance criteria are populating this list. And I can refine them from here. So if you want to decide on the deliverables before you ever draft a single task, you have an interface for doing this at a high level. There we go, submit a Git PR. And then next time you go to draft a task, that will be available, here you go, in the drop-down menu. Okay, so we have this ability to flexibly handle and reuse lists of deliverables. Great. But for now, let's just focus on, let's say that it's only this one that we want to place on chain. I'm going to go to the Manage Treasury view. So we're just working down the checklist on the side of the page. We've drafted some tasks. And now it's time to manage this treasury. This is a form of governance. And what we're going to say is that, okay, this one is approved. But the rest, we're going to leave those in proposed state for now. the first time you set up a treasury, you have to initialize it by locking some UTXOs on chain. So when I press this button right here, a new transaction is going to be queued up. Additionally, I'm going to need to deposit the amount of ADA that it would require to meet this commitment, 15 times, okay? Ooh, actually, I don't want to put all those funds in a treasury yet. So let's go back to the draft tasks. Let's edit this. And let's just say this commitment works twice instead. So I have less of an upfront commitment here. That looks better. Let's approve it. And now let's create the treasury. Okay, I can spare 300 test ADA to get this thing running. Let's sign it. So from my wallet, I'm going to be spending 302 ADA right now. There's the 300 that I'm locking as funds, and there's additional 2 ADA, 1.6 of which is another one of those deposits, right? Because of how Cardano works, we are locking UTXOs, but this can be unlocked later when you close out this project. I'll sign this transaction. And we'll wait for that to update on chain. Now, one of the questions from Intersect is, what are the tokens we can use for payments? And as you'll see right here, we're only locking ADA at this moment. We are releasing actually version 1.4 of the Andamio protocol tomorrow, so that this will all be live on mainnet, and that's October 8th. And then by the middle of November, we are releasing multiple native assets, right? So you'll be able to store USDM, for example, in a treasury and list that on a task. That's coming within the next month. Any questions so far? Okay.
Nothing on this end. It's looking good. Actually, I'm sorry, I take that back.
Okay.
As we get to reporting, will there be a report where we can clearly see deposits versus withdrawals from the platform?
Yeah, and we'll work with you. This is one of the reasons we are interested in this partnership with Intersect, is we trust you to have opinions about what you need, right? So if you tell us we need a report that tells us A, B, and C, we're going to be so excited for that feedback, because we have a few different proofs of concept generating PDFs from this data, but all of it's based on guesswork. We want to know exactly what you guys want, and we're ready to go pretty quickly on that kind of thing, refining the reports. What I will do is I'll show you what it looks like right now, and you can see that as a place to build from. All right, but there's some published tasks here now. These tasks are live. That's great. Let's actually jump back over to the contributor view so we can see what it looks like to make a commitment to one of these milestones. Back here, light mode. I am once again let's look. I'm gonna go back to my dashboard for just a moment. All right, okay, good. I am now a contributor to this project here. It's active. Here I am, Intersect Demo Contributor. When I click in, I can see that the Q4 2025 maintainer contributions are open. Great, let's jump in. When it's time to submit evidence, the page looks like this. And this is where I can add evidence. Maybe I will give you a list of links to PRs. And I could have a link here, another link, etc. Right? Links to documentation reviews. I can add some more links here. You get the idea. You can blow this up so it's bigger, and you've got a rich text editor to really focus, right? Contributors can add links to videos. They can add screenshots if they want to. So a rich way to add evidence here. And then when it comes time to make a commitment, I have some options. I can say, if I'm ready for review now, I'll check this little box. and I'm going to submit. Okay. It shouldn't say no deposit required. We're ironing out just a little bit of the copy right now. There is a small deposit here. Let's see what it looks like. When I commit to this task, right, I will be spending 2.56 ADA. 0.56 is a transaction fee, and the other 2 is a refundable deposit that I will get back upon completion of this task. You can also see that a total of 152 ADA will be locked. 2 of that is from me, and 150 of it is the reward for completing this task. When I sign this transaction, that 150 ADA will be taken from a treasury contract address, and it'll be stored in escrow, earmarked for my personal commitment. I'll sign this transaction. Now this goes on chain, but not all of my text goes on chain. Okay, so yes, I just typed in some evidence that gets stored in the Andamio database. And what goes on chain is just a hash, which is basically an encoding, right? A one-way encoding of the evidence that I just submitted. This allows anybody with access to the evidence data to confirm that it matches what's on chain. And it allows us to preserve some level of privacy, right? We don't want to put the raw data directly on chain just so anybody can read it, just a proof that this data exists. All right, great. I've made a contribution. If I go back to this page, I can see that the evidence is submitted and it's ready for review by the project owner. So let me switch screens again.
If I may, I hate to interrupt, but for clarity, if we're using, let's say, a native asset, are the fees still in ADA?
Yes. Okay. So you can use any native asset you want to as soon as we release that update in November. But the on-chain fees, just like with any Cardano application at this time, need to be paid in Lovelace. Right.
And then the second follow-up there is, what happens to the 2 ADA in the event that the project owner kicks back or denies the contribution?
Ooh, okay. Well, let's take a look at that. So from this view, I have some contributions, not contributors, commitments that I need to manage. Right? Here's the one that contributor just submitted. And if I go to the review page, I can see, oh, I can't see their evidence. Okay, there's a bug here, but you should be able to see their evidence. We're going to fix this tonight. What I should be able to see is the evidence right here of what that person committed to. And so you can imagine, just bear with me for this moment as I realize we have this bug. You should see the evidence right here. All right. Well, I can't see it. So actually this fits the user story that Tex is asking about. I have the option of refusing this commitment. Okay. I can accept or refuse. Accept is good. That means, right, I say I approve of this evidence and the contributor should be able to claim rewards. If I refuse, here's very specifically what happens. The contributor will still be committed and will have another chance to submit evidence. Okay. There is a third action that can happen right here. It's a denial of a commitment. The reason we don't see denial on the page right here is that the expiration time for this task, let's go take a look at it. Whoops. The expiration time for this task is in about 2 weeks, on October 20th. You cannot deny a task commitment until after the expiration time. We want to give people a chance to try to get it right. What this means for managing bad actors, for example, is that if somebody shouldn't be making a commitment to a task and they're in here just trying to gum up your system, the worst thing they can do is they can lock some of these funds temporarily until the expiration date passes, at which point you can deny the commitment and those funds will be returned to the Treasury. Okay. It's up to you to set those expiration dates, right? So if you want to shorten the feedback loop, if you want there to be a very short window in which contributors must submit their evidence, that's up to you at the time of drafting tasks, okay? But the worst thing somebody can do is they can lock up funds temporarily, in which case you would just have to wait for the expiration time, you would reclaim those funds. Let's just for fun, let's refuse this evidence. As you can see right here, all I'm doing is I'm paying a transaction fee. That's the Cardano on-chain fee for using this system. I could write a message to the contributor. And we can chat about it right here. This is all based on another decentralized protocol called Nostr, and these chats are not saved in our database, but on a public relay network, and this leads to other integration opportunities, but I'll just leave that there for now. Okay, great. I successfully refused this project. What does that mean for the contributor? Let's go find out. Okay. Oh, I have a commitment that was denied. Great. My evidence was refused, but I have another chance. I could quit right now and just abandon this task. And if I did, look, those 150 ADA, those would go back to the Treasury. And I would, actually, it's a two-step process. It's one step to quit and send the funds back to the Treasury. And it's a second step to unlock my contribution token so that I might commit to another task. And we're making that expensive to ensure the safety of this system, right? If a bad actor comes in, we want to make it challenging for them to mess us up again, right? So this is a case where a bad actor, if they want to try to commit to something again, they're going to have to abandon this task. Then they're going to have to unlock their deposit. And only after they do that can they try to make another commitment. We have a contributor blacklisting feature that will go live in January. And this will allow any project owner to say, hey, look, this access token holder is not allowed to use this system anymore. I'm not going to sign this transaction because I don't want to abandon this task. Let me try again. Yep.
I'm so sorry. That blacklist is purely controlled by the contributor, or is there any automation where the project manager may have to go back and
the blacklist would be controlled by the project manager solely, and it only impacts your project, right? You can't blacklist somebody from all of Andamio network, right? But you can say, hey, in our project, this contributor is not welcome, right? There will be an on-chain record that you said that, and somebody might ask you to defend and give some reasoning as to why that person is on that list, right? But it's certainly possible. So as you saw, I'm fixing a bug apparently where this evidence didn't save last time. Let's see if it saves this time. Let me try again. Here is my evidence. And we'll have this fixed by tomorrow. But let's see what happens. I can submit again. This transaction has a very low cost. I don't need to make a deposit again because I'm already committed. So this time I'm just paying a transaction fee. Let's sign it. Okay, so it's pending again. That transaction is going to confirm on chain, and then the project manager will be able to see it. So let's switch screens again while we wait for that to load. Right. I'm still waiting on the transaction. Oh, adding information. Here we go. All right, so once again, we're pending review because it was submitted again. Let's see if we see any evidence this time. Nope. Okay, so we have a bug here. I'll fix that. Let's assume we can see that evidence, and let's accept this, just so you can see the rest of the workflow. If I'm satisfied with the evidence as a project manager, I accept the commitment. This is, once again, there's only a Cardano transaction fee here. No funds are yet moving. I can sign this transaction.
And for clarity, when we say no funds are yet moving, they're still locked within the escrow that you referred to earlier.
Exactly. All I'm doing now with this transaction, and this goes to the question about, is this a push or pull system, right? All I'm doing with this transaction is I'm saying, yes, the evidence is good. The contributor can claim this reward. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, the commitment has been accepted. Now, if I switch back to the contributor view, I can see here on this project, ooh, rewards are available. Cool. Let's take a look. Task commitment was accepted. I can now claim rewards. And here's my evidence. Okay, so that's still showing up there. It's just not showing up in the project manager UX. But now, finally, I can claim my rewards. What does this transaction look like? Oh, where is it? Claim rewards. Oh, I need a collateral UTXO in this wallet. Let's try that. Oh yeah, my UTXO list. Oh, I just have one big UTXO, and apparently it's not recognizing the 5. Okay, so here's how we're going to fix that. I'm just going to send, say, 10 ADA to myself. And so we're working on a lot of features to make Web3 suck less. And this is another place where we're really excited to work with anybody on the Intersect crew to think about how we make this more and more of a product that somebody with a Web2 mindset might appreciate. All right, so ongoing work. Obviously, collateral comes with its own challenges. We love the reason it exists, but we recognize it leads to some user challenges. As soon as this transaction goes through, I should be good with collateral in this wallet, and I should be able to claim these rewards. At which point I'll have a lot more ADA to have more collateral UTXOs with. Great. Any questions while we're waiting for this?
Yes. So as a project manager, are we also able to see a transaction history like this for the contributor?
Yes, and I'll show you that as well in just a second. And let me off screen. I'm going to show you, I'll be able to show you the end result of what we've actually already been doing on mainnet with this platform. But let's just complete this transaction first. Okay. I can claim rewards. I think I have to refresh just to make sure that my UTXOs are picked up by the app. Let's see. Claim rewards. Okay, good. Look at this transaction. So right here, I earned 150 ADA, but I'm actually going to receive 151.53, right? Because I'm reclaiming my deposit. Remember how I deposited 2? I'm not quite getting 152 because there are on-chain transaction fees, okay? Let's sign this one. And I'll be able to see it incoming to my wallet, 151.52 ADA. The other thing you'll notice in this transaction, can I look at these details, right? In the input, I have these intersect demo contributor tokens coming from 2 different addresses or from 2 different UTXOs, and the output, they're in the same UTXO. For anybody who likes to get into the weeds of how the tech actually works, what's going on under the hood is when a commitment is made, my 2 contributor tokens are split up. One stays in a kind of contributor state registry with a small amount of ADA, and the other gets locked in an escrow UTXO that's holding those rewards just for me, right? Just for me, the holder of this access token alias. And after I claim the rewards, I get those to my wallet, and my 2 contribution tokens are put back in the same UTXO, which means that I am available to now make another commitment in the future. I know that's going a little deep into the tech, but just so in case anybody's curious about what's going on, this is showing you the resolution of our escrow validators. Cool. So that's been claimed. What can now the project manager see? Well, they know that they approved this task. And if we go back to the commitments list, they'll see that, okay, this contributor claimed these rewards on this date. I can click in. Here, I can see the evidence in this view. For some reason, I just couldn't see it on the approval view, right? But here's the evidence. Anybody who wants to can confirm that this evidence here matches the hash that went on chain. And we're excited to build out ways to make sure that's all auditable in the way people want it to be. There's all sorts of stuff we can do with reporting, but this is the basic idea. And hopefully you can imagine, right? I wrote very short evidence here in the interest of time. But if somebody's sharing a bunch of links or screenshots or even a video, it's all going to show up right here so that anybody managing this project can revisit this page later to review the evidence, to review a conversation that might have happened with the contributor. All right. Any questions here? All right.
Looking good so far.
Let me show you one more thing. I'm going to switch over actually to my mainnet view. Here it is. So, right, we've been practicing with this application live on Cardano mainnet, and we've been using it to build our team, the Andamio platform team. And the only thing I'll show you here is, look, here's a history of the funds we've used, going all the way back to February and March. I can sort this by contributor, and I can see what they've done. I can click through any of these to look at the evidence. And I can see, right, the rewards that were distributed, et cetera, et cetera. Look, I even have one to review right here. Great. Any questions about this view?
Now, when we say on mainnet, this is anyone with access to the platform, or this is the project manager view of the platform?
I can only see this because I am one of the managers of this project. Right, so we authenticate that, yes, my access token is here, so I can see this Web2 content that represents these commitments. Okay, this part, this is the fun part, right? You can imagine how some kind of export button would be really nice to have right here. We have a few of those that we're testing, and you can imagine that we might want to be able to filter. So we already have a filter for, like, right, the status of a commitment. Okay, but you can imagine you might want to filter by who the contributor is, or you might want to have a summary of the name of a contributor, how many tasks and total rewards. All of that's trivial to build, and we're very excited, right? We have this data right here. It's just a matter of working with partners like the Intersect team to think about what you want to see on this page, and we can be really responsive with that. So I want to look at the questions that you guys brought. I think we've covered a good bit of this, but it might be a good time to go through those one at a time and just summarize things.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've discussed here, the question was, can Andamio be used as a one-to-one tracking tool to confirm that a person or a project's milestone or deliverables have been met? And that may require a specific set to be marked complete before the funds are available or released. And so we have seen that as the primary action here, or that primary end goal, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The next question was, is there a way for contracts that have been written to be brought into the system? And we talked about how that's a little bit of a 50-50. So we can bring in deliverables. We have the rich text editor in which we can copy into and reformat accordingly as needed. And then more things coming is
Yeah,
the next
I think the key highlights here are the acceptance criteria are reusable. You build those once, you manage those right here. And then coming in January is like a CSV upload. So if you've ever used like, what's it called? QuickBooks, how there's like a formatted type of CSV they need, we're going to provide similar guidance that says, look, if you give us a CSV that's formatted like this, we can populate very quickly a list of tasks for you instead of having you type them into this UX.
Now, once a transaction is locked or in escrow, we can say, if we were to, just on the off chance, in error, remove one of those tasks, is that task still locked within the transaction that's already been created?
Good. So our UX here only allows you to do moves that are already legal on chain, right? So we look at the validation rules first. So basically, once you have put this task on the blockchain, there's no way in our system to delete it directly, right? You would have to remove this task right here by hand by unapproving it, and that would require another transaction before you can accidentally delete anything.
I'll clarify. I was more specifically referring to the acceptance criteria.
Yeah, the acceptance criteria, that's a good feature that we should probably make sure of, is that if any of these are being used, they shouldn't be able to be deleted. Let me implement that one.
Sure.
This is why we do these things, Tex. Thank you. That's a great feature request.
No problem. While you're noting that, we took a look at how to cancel a payment, or rather deny a task, whether that's simply refusing to allowing for another attempt, or denying once we've reached the deadline. Obviously, we have some flexible framing there for the period of availability. The gap in time is simply as long as it takes. Sorry, the question here is, what's the gap of time that must occur between stopping a payment or disallowing a payment and the payment not going out, or rather not being claimable? In this case, we've covered that by it takes the time that the transaction takes.
Right.
We've talked here about the payment being pushed or it being claim-based. Of course, this is claim-based in this instance. And we've demonstrated both the user and the program manager view of this. How does it look to set up payments for us? So I don't remember if we went through the project manager side of putting ADA in, or if allowed at this point, taking ADA out of the treasury.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of putting funds into the treasury, right, you have your list of tasks right here. Let me just give this one a different title, just so it's easier to recognize it. We're going to call this new task 222. Great. And so there's two kinds of transactions that could run from the project manager view. One is that at any time, any manager can add more funds to the project. Right? And you can imagine this will have native assets on it within the next month. But if I want to throw an extra 1,000 ADA into the treasury, very simple transaction, 1,000 ADA plus basically a minimum transaction fee. That would fill up the treasury. The other way to add funds is if I don't have sufficient funds to cover the tasks that I am putting on chain, right? So look right here. Currently, and these funds are, this just hasn't updated, right? It should say 150 now because somebody claimed 150. Let's make sure that's working. Yeah, okay. I have 150 ADA in the treasury. It's allocated already to this task, which is the only task that's on the blockchain. There's one commitment available times 150. There it is. That's why I have 150 in the treasury. right? Let's say that I want to add this one. Okay, approve. Now I've approved this. When I go to update the treasury, it's going to tell me, look, you already have 150. That's for this task. You're going to need to deposit 10 more in order to fund the new project that you're approving. And when I go to sign this transaction, that's what I'll see, right? Total ADA to send is 10 plus the transaction fee, plus there's more data in the UTXO listing our tasks now. So in this case, I have to add a little bit of minimum Lovelace to that. If I approved another task, of course, the big one, 1,000 ADA, and I try to update again, it's going to tell me, okay, you need to deposit 1,010 more. And there you have that.
Now, those fees, I apologize, it was out a little bit here. Did the fees change between the 110 ADA transaction and the 1,000 ADA transaction?
They did. Good eyes. Okay, so the network, the Cardano transaction fee went up slightly because there was a bit more data in this transaction, right? We were adding to the datum 2 tasks instead of 1. The other thing that went up by almost double is the delta between the amount I have locked right now and the additional ADA I will need to support putting some extra data on chain, right? This won't always be greater than 0, right? If I removed a bunch of tasks, I wouldn't need to add additional ADA because there's enough for that min UTXO. So this is just, right, how Cardano works. There's a cost that needs to be temporarily locked if I want to put some data on chain, and that's what we're seeing right here. I'll sign this so people can play with it. Anybody who's watching this video can actually go over to preprod.andamio.io, and I'll approve your assignment if you want to join this preprod project, and if you want to claim this 1,000 test data, here it is. You have until October 20th to try to get it. Yeah. So good, that's up to date now. Those tasks are published, that's great. And let's go back to the public view of this thing.
If I might clarify quickly, if we are adding funds to the treasury, that is going to represent a lesser cost than adding funds when enabling the tasks. Is that a proper statement?
It comes out to be the same. And here's the reason, right?
Okay.
You're just adding funds, sure, you dump them into the treasury. But when you add tasks, you would still have to run that as a separate transaction. And that's going to incur those min UTXO deposits. There they are. They already loaded them. What else? Looking at the list, we looked at this. Set up the payments, and we can help with that, right? Payment fees we talked about. All Andamio and Cardano network fees are for now denominated in Lovelace. But this is what we're all building towards, right? Is that future where different tokens can be used. So let's keep going. Let's get some maintainers on board to help extend the core protocol for that kind of thing. Can we pay in USDM? Yes, by the middle of November, and we're really excited to release that feature. And then there was one other question just about integrations with third-party data, right? So there's already some relationships. This is a place where you can imagine, if you're the project manager, reviewing what the contributor typed in, right? Whatever arbitrary data they typed in right here, fine. But maybe you want some instant access to some other data. And if you're tracking via third-party tools the Git activity of a maintainer, you can connect what they're seeing here with any sort of GitHub analytics. And then the project manager could look at that evidence when they choose whether or not to pay out the maintainer. We looked at how to set tasks. And then, yeah, the last question I see in this list is feedback. Obviously, we already have my partner here, Sebastian, who's a member of the OSC. But this is, yeah, I'm a member of Intersect myself, right? I've been spending most of my time working on Andamio. I still do spend some time at Gimbal Labs, but this is my #1 priority. And as a member of Intersect, I want to know what people want. And so I would be so excited to do workshops on this, take live feedback from people, show that we have very short feedback loops on implementing some of these changes. And most importantly, moving towards a future, right? This is probably not in the next 3 or 6 months, but in the 1 to 2 year time frame, we would like to support the Intersect team to take what we're showing you here in this application and build your own application that does exactly what it needs to do, but just draws on all the same data. It's on chain, right? This is this concept of a headless DApp. Because all of this information is on the blockchain, anybody else can build a different front end for consuming this. And for example, we're using the term task, but you might want to use the word milestone, right? We're using the term acceptance criteria, but you might want to use the term deliverables. That's beautiful. You can build an application that does all the same things, but is designed in a way that Intersect wants it to be, with the language that you want to use, wrapping all of the very same concepts. And that's, for me, the highest level of success we could experience right here would be try this in the short term, start collecting feedback, but then start to make plans towards Intersect building their own portal to the Andamio smart contracts.
Well, thank you, James. I think this was definitely very introspective here. And I think I have one slight question in closing, and hopefully this doesn't sound silly to some, but in the interest of looking at this as an open source project, is there a repository essentially where we could place feedback and maybe a named token or some type of handle or nomenclature rather, where we can specifically identify the part of Andamio that would be this Intersect project, or if there's an individual repo for it where not only us as Intersect or OSC members, but anyone from the community could provide us that feedback as well.
Okay, so the documentation is going live right now, and we've released a couple of repos. Let me just give you the public. What's the name of our, I thought it was Andamio platform. Where's our, 1 second here. Oh, it has a dash in it. Ha. So you will find at this link the currently public repos, and there's a small set of work here that we've already released. We are currently in an audit. TX Pipe has taken on an audit of the global validation code base for Andamio platform. We are targeting to have that audit complete by the middle of December. And then with that wrapped up, in the first couple weeks of January, we're going to release version 2 of the Andamio protocol, fully audited, open source on-chain code, and a lot more open repos. So just pending an audit there, but really excited to make these things much more public.
All right. I'm trying not to come up with a million questions for you, but I think one of my last ones is to do with a fee schedule, right? So for the Intersect use case, now that we've seen, I would say a little bit more, but also for any project who might look at using this, is there a document that would include a fee schedule where we could essentially forecast, hey, if we make 50 transactions, right, we have to sign 50 times. Do we have an understanding that, you know, hey, we're going to pay 50 minimum fees? Okay, that's easily calculable. But if not all 50 of those transactions are going to be the minimum fee, usually it's all coming out less than, you know, 1 ADA in this case, but that's still a number that should be projected.
It adds up over time. Yeah, let me prepare a better document for that because we've talked about the high level fees, right? Everybody, there's a one-time fee of approximately 8.3 ADA total, some of which is just locked again in UTXOs. When somebody mints an access token, there's a fee of 150 ADA for putting a course or a project on chain, right? And a big part of that fee is also min UTXOs because we're locking several unique reference scripts. And then finally, for adding project managers, there's a small fee for each manager you add to a project beyond the original owner, all right? Besides those, yes, there's all of these Cardano transaction fees. Let me work on some guidance so people can estimate what it would cost to run this system. And that's another long-term goal, right? We've already done some, you'll actually see in our public repos, we've done some work with partner chains, and we have some working proofs of concept for that. But obviously, for this thing to be really cost-effective at scale, we probably want to offload some of the logic to a side chain. So coming soon, it's something we're excited to be working on. But we're also, we're proud to be generating Cardano transaction fees like everybody in Intersect should be doing.
Well, very happy to see it, and hopefully the community likes this, visual recording here as well. And I personally see a lot of use cases. I'm excited to see what comes from this, but definitely thank you both so much for the time. I'll give you an opportunity to hear any other parting words before we sign off today.
Thanks for the opportunity, Tex. Yeah, and please, nobody hesitate to follow up. We're really excited to keep talking about this stuff. What do you think, Ron?
Sebastian?
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. And we
Awesome.
hope to collaborate in this shared endeavor. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Good stuff. Well, if you have any questions for Intersect or for the Andamio team, please drop a comment for us, and we'll get back to that. Give us a like if you want to see more content like this. I promise there's always more of this coming, so please drop a subscribe here on the channel as well. But other than that, we will catch you later on the next episode from Open Source Office. Have a great one.
Thanks.